everyone, 86 Reviews here, and welcome back to another episode of Figure Battles. For all of you who are new to the channel, in this series of reviews, I take two of the same character figure from two different lines and give you an in-depth look at each figure's sculpt, paintwork, articulation, accessories, fun factor, and just overall how well they stack up within their own respective lines. So before we get into it, once again, this review isn't necessarily comparing two figures against one another. Rather, it's a look at two figures with obvious similarities, how well each company, or in this case Bandai, interpret the source material, Full Power Broly, from the Dragon Ball Super Broly movie. We'll also be looking at how they stand as a figure on their own, with other lines, and of course, helping you decide which figure is best for your collection. Once again, we have S.H Figuarts and Figurize Standard with their own representations of Full Power Broly. If you guys haven't watched my comparison review on Gogeta Blue, make sure you check that video out too. I'll have a link in the description below. With the success of Dragon Ball Super Broly the movie, which the character design was based on, Broly has become an extremely popular character with fans, possibly even more popular than the Dragon Ball Z predecessor. The writers giving the character more depth to his backstory whilst staying faithful to his brutish nature. Both Figurize and Figuarts have become highly sought after figures, selling out almost instantly at retail, with Figuarts now going for well over double its original retail price with secondary sellers. Having both figures standing together, you can see that there really isn't much size difference between the two. That's both in height and in beefiness. Both figures are huge and tower over nearly all other figures in their respective lines. Now the question is whether Figurize Broly is too small for the Figurize line, or is it Figuarts Broly is too big for the Figuarts line? Either way, I personally see this as a positive, as both figures scale-wise, I think, work for both lines. Again, we're just talking about scale. Stylistically is a different story. As with Gogeta, both Figurize and Figuarts certainly have their own stylistic differences. For me, Figurize has always had a more 3D animation look, very akin to the Dragon Ball FighterZ games. Figuarts, on the other hand, tries to be more faithful to the animation in my opinion, so I don't think there's necessarily a right or wrong here. Both figures are undeniably Broly, but it really comes down to your personal design preferences and what you're looking for aesthetically in a Broly figure. Figurize Full Power Broly is based on the original movie Broly figure that was released last year and shares some of the parts from that kit, mainly from the torso and arms, which have been resculpted to include the scars on his chest. Full Power Broly shares the same interchangeable fist and open palm hands as his Dragon Ball Z counterpart, but everything else is pretty much new. The first sash around his waist is what you would expect it to be, a 3-piece plastic shell attached to his waist via hinges, giving Broly the room to move his legs freely. Unfortunately, and I can confirm that this is not just on my kit, the thighs do not securely connect with the waist, meaning the legs tend to pop off at the waist when you try to pose it. And it's not that I haven't built it correctly. There was a nice snap when I attached the legs initially, but it doesn't matter how far or hard I push, the legs do eventually get loose and pop off. I know a lot of people are experiencing this problem as well, so it's definitely not just me. Broly also has new arm guards and new boots to complete his new full power look. So I'm really happy that they gave us a newly sculpted head and didn't just reuse the original. The hair is significantly different and quite faithful to the animation model. The green plastic it's molded in is vibrant and has a nice fluorescent glow to it. As with all Figurize model kits, the figure is unpainted but has the potential to look like a work of art, depending of course on your painting skills. That being said, even without any paint or detailing, this sculpt is still fantastic. The colors still pop, making for a very attractive figure on your shelf. Figuarts Full Power Broly is big, heavy, and just a whole lot of figure. I don't really know how else to describe it, except that it feels good in your hands. There's a lot of heft to it. The joints are all nice and tight, on my copy anyway. There really is just a lot to love about this figure, with really only one complaint I have with Broly, and that's the lack of any energy effect accessories. I know by now it's something that as collectors we've probably come to accept, but something for the big guy would have been just the icing on the cake. In saying that, Figure-Eyes also no effect accessories either. I think they spent everything on the actual figure itself in both cases and left nothing over in terms of budget for accessories. In saying that, Figuarts Full Power Broly is magnificently sculpted. I know we've seen numerous photos and reviews for months now, but it's not until you actually have this guy in hand that you really appreciate how beautiful this figure is. And it's not just all the sculpted details, from the musculature to the scars, the sculpted fur on both sides of his sash, but it's the way that they captured the overall proportions of Broly. Looking at the conceptual artwork and comparing it to the figure, you really see that Tamashii has really paid attention to the design cues of the new Broly design. Again, while I really do like the look of the Figure-Eyes Broly, to me it's still more of a generic look. As generic as a huge hulking Saiyan with neon green hair can get, but you know what I mean. The parts are reused from the original Broly release, which is again not necessarily a bad thing, but I think suits that version of Broly better. What I love about the head sculpt is that Tamashii has given the hair some movement. It's kind of blown over ever so slightly to the right side, giving it a more natural, asymmetrical look. As I mentioned before, I really think Tamashii have captured the animation style of Shintani with these face sculpts. They are so expressive and just have a lot of character to them. Unlike some of their previous releases, Full Power Broly actually has some shading, surprisingly. It's subtle, but it adds a nice finishing touch to the overall figure. You can see it all over his body, from his face to his torso, back, arms, legs, and even the sash, which really highlights the sculpted details. And it's a completely new sculpt. Nothing reused, everything unique to just this version of Broly. And looking at Figure-Eyes Full Power Broly's articulation, he does move his head side to side. Some good range of motion there. He does have some head tilt, left and right. He doesn't look up at all because of his hair. It does get in the way there, you can see. But he does look down quite far. He buries his head into his chest quite far there. For his shoulders, he does share these same butterfly joints as the Dragon Ball Z Broly. It's a pretty cool mechanism here. You can see his shoulder blades moving in and out. His shoulders don't go past 90 degrees, which is a shame, but we do get some 360 rotation there. Some upper bicep swivel. Broly does have a double jointed elbow, but we don't get past 90 degrees. And his hands are on ball joints, so we do get that swivel and hinge motion. So looking at his torso, he does get a little bit of ab crunch going forward, but a lot more going back. If you kind of like tilt it and lift it up a bit, he does get a little bit more going forward. You get some side to side, and you get some side to side at the bottom as well. Not as much as the top, but there is some movement there. And as I mentioned before, those hinged sash pieces, those 3 sash pieces, they do hinge up and down to give you some space to move the legs. The legs do have a drop down kind of mechanism going down there, and it does let you move his legs, do the splits almost perfectly out. He does kick out, forward and back, but you do have to kind of angle it to get it straight. He only has a single jointed knee, so 90 degrees for his knee joint there. He does have an upper thigh swivel, an upper thigh cut. Just looking at the feet, for me, this is kind of actually weird, the way it's built. I think they kind of got it the wrong way around. While he does have like fantastic ankle tilt, the way that it's built, or the way that it hinges, instead of hinging up and down, it hinges side to side, and that's why you get that great ankle tilt. But it does limit the legs going up and down, which is my main problem. Alright, so for Figuarts, we do get some side to side movement for the head. He's not going to look up very well, just like the figure eyes, because of the hair, the way it blocks that movement. But he does look down fairly well. He does have some side to side tilt as well. Looking at the shoulders, he does have a nice butterfly joint there. Again, nice and tight, maybe a little bit too tight. So he can bring his arms pretty far in. He moves his shoulders out 90 degrees. 360 rotation. Some bicep swivel. Broly does have double jointed elbows, and he does get ever so slightly past 90 degrees. Again, you do get the standard swivel and hinges at the wrists. So, all that good stuff there. Looking at his torso, Broly, really squeaky right there, but he does get some side-to-side motion, and he does get some tilt as well. A little bit going forward, not too much. Actually, it's quite decent, actually. Not too bad. And he does get some backward crunch as well. We do get a swivel at the waist. Again, really squeaky. Looking at Broly's sash, we do get a hinge on the back piece of his sash there. So that does move out of the way. The sash is actually made from a softer plastic. And yeah, he can actually do the splits perfectly, which is fantastic, I think, for a figure this size. So the sash definitely doesn't hinder or restrict the articulation for the legs, which is great. Broly does have an upper thigh cut. Double jointed knees, which goes a little bit past 90. He does have side-to-side rotation for his feet. Up and down, or down and up. We do get some toe articulation in there as well for his boot. And of course, we do get some ankle tilt. For accessories, we do get 3 interchangeable faces. We get his standard neutral face, or it's actually kind of an angry face, but yeah, neutral for Broly. We also get a kind of a maniacal face there, him smirking off to the side, and we do get a shouting face as well. All 3 faces look fantastic. A pair of fists, which are on ball joints, as I mentioned earlier. Broly also comes with a pair of open palm hands, a little bit more relaxed, and a pair of Ki Blast hands as well. For figure eyes, we do get 2 interchangeable faces, a pair of fists, which are on ball joints, as I mentioned earlier, and a pair of open palm hands as well. So with these reviews, I try to be as neutral as I can about both figures, trying my best to tell it like it is, so to speak. And hopefully based on these observations, you guys can make up your own mind on which figure you prefer. But in this case, if you can only have one figure, then I have to wholeheartedly recommend you track down the Figuarts version. As much as I love the figure eyes, as much as I enjoyed building it, and eventually I will give him some love and paint him up, the leg articulation, in my opinion, is kind of a letdown. As with figure eyes, for the price, which I believe you can still get him for retail, is pretty hard to pass up on, especially when Figuarts now is almost three times as much. I know some sellers are asking for 200 for this guy, and I certainly wouldn't pay that much. I don't recommend you do it too, but it's going to be pretty hard to find him for anything less than 100 now, maybe more. But like Dragon Ball Z Broly, I think Full Power Broly will hold its value over time. Will he get a reissue in the future? Well, he's not a web exclusive, so probably somewhere down the track as a premium color or even exclusive somewhere down the line. But if you can't wait that long, save up your money, hold off on buying that other figure you kind of want. Just save up because he is definitely worth it. Again, I really do wish Tamashii packed in some energy effects for Broly, actually on both Brolys. But there is no denying just how well executed this figure is, not just aesthetically but functionally as well. Well, I hope you guys enjoyed that episode of Figure Battles. I'll probably have another one up soon since I got my hands on the new Figuarts Super Gotenks. But yeah, let me know if you guys want to see a comparison between Figuarts Super Gotenks and Figuarts Super Gotenks. Anyway, thank you always for watching. You guys are the best. If you haven't already, feel free to subscribe and follow me on Instagram. Have a great week, and I'll be seeing you all real soon. Bye for now.